Hello, friends. This is Professor Googla. On my channel, you mostly watch videos about the beautiful world around us. But today, it's a little different. What is it about? Keep watching to find out. Fort Steuben Bridge. The Fort Steuben Bridge stood for 84 years. It spanned the Ohio River and connected the communities of Steubenville, Ohio, and Weirton, West Virginia. But on February 21, 2012, it only took him a few seconds to collapse. As the video slows down frame by frame, you can see the charges detonate and explode as they move across the bridge. According to the media, the bombing team wrapped 4 meters of detonating cord and 40 meters of copper-coated linear charges around the bridge. The heavy slabs of steel and concrete fell into the Ohio River. For a second, the smoke becomes like the ghost of the bridge rising to the sky. The 800-kilogram bridge should have fallen down back in 2009. The decking was rotten and the walkways were too narrow. But officials thwarted that plan, and the ghost bridge stayed on death row for another 3 years. The demolition and cleanup cost about $2.3 million. Do you see workers hauling pieces from the river and cutting them up for disposal? Hangzhou. On June 27, 2022, teams of bombers blew up a cooling tower in Hangzhou, China. The 150-meter tower simply stopped working in May of that year. Such demolitions in the US take years. In China, it took a few months. What you are seeing is the demolition of the largest cooling tower in China's history. The city put lights on the tower to illuminate the explosion. Slow-motion footage of the demolition shows all the charges going off at the same time. The smoke takes on a wave shape and then the tower collapses. Look at the way it folds up. It looks like someone crushed an empty aluminum can. Grain elevator. Fombelle, Pennsylvania is a small town. In July 2021, local farmers noticed that their grain elevator was beginning to breathe. The grain elevator had been standing for quite some time and any day could have been its last. Especially if a strong gust of wind blew in. To avoid a costly accident, our farmers took matters into their own hands. At least they knew what they were doing. You can see where part of the elevator was cut like a tree to make it fall in the right direction. We don't know what that banging sound is. Maybe someone is standing on the other side and hitting the elevator with a sledgehammer. The way the structure falls is the coolest part of the video. Iron Bridge. When Iron Bridge Power Station became operational in 1969, it was one of the largest of its kind in the UK. According to the media, the power station produced enough energy to power 750,000 homes. But in 2015, the facility stopped producing power. The decision was made to blow it up and build a small town. Local residents wanted to preserve the iconic pink cooling towers that had been part of the landscape for decades. But these structures did not meet the strict criteria for historic building selection. On December 6, 2019, the pink cooling towers finally collapsed. Like similar structures in China, these English cooling towers look like crushed aluminum cans. The demolition of the towers was a crucial phase of the 27-month project. Before demolition, workers had to remove 16,000 tons of asbestos from inside, and because the structures were next to railroad tracks, the demolition team had to be very careful. The 4 cooling towers were each 123 meters high. Because of their size and the amount of explosives required, no one could get within 330 meters of them. This did not stop the locals from gathering on the nearby hills and roads. People recorded everything with cameras to say goodbye to their favorite local landmarks. Mighty Marysville. Marysville, Michigan, is a small town that used to be home to Mighty Marysville, an old coal-fired power plant that stood there for 93 years. The owners closed the power plant in 2001 and put the facility up for sale in 2012. Commercial Development Corporation bought the structure in 2013, but not with the goal of revitalizing Mighty Marysville. It wanted to build hotels, retail stores, a marina and some bike paths in its place. The first order of business was to make the old power plant a thing of the past. A group of Canadians watched the demolition from across the St. Clair River. But let's be honest, a person passing by in a boat had the best vantage point. The dust cloud spread hundreds of meters in all directions. It almost crossed the border into Canada. In slow motion, the explosions look like surges of electricity hitting the support beams. We can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of those surges. You can barely notice the support beams sagging under the weight. Watching mighty Marysville fall is like saying goodbye to a bygone era of energy production. As of 2023, only 224 active coal-fired power plants remain in the United States. Red Road Flats. Glasgow is home to more than 630,000 people. The most populous city in Scotland is also home to the tallest residential buildings in Europe. Red Road Flats are 8 huge apartment blocks built in the 1960s. In their heyday, they could accommodate 4,700 residents. In October 2015, Glasgow decided to blow up the houses. As you can see, the 2 stubborn towers refused to fall during demolition. According to the media, the contractor noticed some discrepancies between the old records of steel dimensions and the materials that were actually used. So he decided to reinsure himself and not demolish the buildings. The Red Road Flats were the tallest buildings in Glasgow. 6 of the 8 structures reached 87 meters. If you lived on the 30th floor, you literally towered over everyone else in the city. The reputation of the complex was tarnished in the 70s. Asbestos and gang violence led to people leaving the apartments. Drugs were lying around in the corridors. Life was getting worse due to the lack of amenities, so the Scottish government decided it was time for the towers to leave the world. Munmore Power Plant. Munmore Power Station is a huge coal-fired power station north of Sydney, Australia. It was built in the 1960s and supplied electricity to eastern New South Wales. In July 2012, the owner of the facility announced its closure after 45 years of operation. Demand for power was falling and parts of the power station needed expensive repairs, requiring $400 million. It was cheaper to demolish everything and sell the land for construction. Texas Stadium. Jerry Jones loves the Dallas Cowboys team. Loves it so much that he spent about $875 million to build a stadium named in its honor. In the mid-2000s, the city of Arlington, Texas put another $325 million into the project. The Dallas Cowboys used to play at Texas Stadium in Irving, Texas. But once Jerry moved the team, no one needed the soccer stadium in Irving. On April 11, 2010, the Weir Brothers demolition campaign firebombed the old stadium. It's amazing to watch all those charges explode perfectly in sync. You can time the explosions with a timer if you want. It took nearly 1.5 tons of explosives to destroy the Texas Stadium. Luckily, Jerry was able to get all the memorabilia out before the explosion. He squeezed what he could out of the old stadium, selling seats, star-shaped signs, and pieces of turf from the end zone. The Dallas Cowboys played 38 seasons in the old stadium. It only took 30 seconds to bring the building down. An 11-year-old boy named Casey Rogers was excited to push the button that set off the explosion. He won an essay contest sponsored by Kraft Foods, and the city of Irving. Kraft Foods also gave $75,000 to demolition, naming it the Cheddar Blast. The demolition was part of an extensive marketing campaign to promote Kraft Foods macaroni and cheese. Friends, don't hesitate to write comments under the video about what else you would like to learn. I will definitely fulfill your wish. Bye for now.